Imagine waking up on a January morning, not to the gentle hum of a boiler, but to silence. Your bedroom is so cold that the first thing you notice isn't the light or the sound of the street outside. It's the pattern of ice spreading delicately across the inside of your window. You reach out a hand and trace little ferns and feathers of frost, your breath puffing out in pale clouds. To even see outside, you have to scrape the glass with your sleeve. This isn't a skiing lodge in the Alps. This is an ordinary British house, in an ordinary British street, in the 1960 seconds or 70 seconds. For millions of families, winter wasn't just uncomfortable. It was something you had to plan for, fight against, and endure. Before central heating became standard, before double glazing and cosy insulation, surviving a British winter took real effort. It shaped daily routines, family life, even how early people went to bed. In this episode, we're looking back at 12 things Brits did just to get through winter in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds. Some of these habits will make you smile, others will make you shiver, and all of them might make you just a little more grateful for that ticking thermostat on the wall. Number 1. Sleeping in freezing bedrooms under mountains of blankets. Bedrooms in the 1960 seconds and 70 seconds in most ordinary homes had no heating at all. Not a bit chilly, not the radiators off, just plain, unheated cold. So you didn't sleep under a nice light duvet. You slept under what felt like a small landslide of wool. The typical bed started with a sheet, then a blanket, then another, and then, if your family had one, an eiderdown or heavy quilt on top of everything else. Some beds had 4, 5, even 6 thick woolen blankets piled on. The weight was astonishing. Many people remember that feeling of being pinned to the mattress, not because you were particularly tired, but because the bedding itself was so heavy you could barely turn over. But you needed every layer. The air in those bedrooms was icy. You could lie there in the dark and literally see your breath above you. Getting into bed was a military-style maneuver. Sprint upstairs, undress at frightening speed, then dive under the blankets and curl up while your body slowly warmed your little cocoon. It could take a good 20 minutes before you felt properly warm. Getting out of bed was worse. On especially brutal mornings, some people would get dressed under the blankets, dragging socks, vests and shirts under the covers first to take the edge off the cold. Only once they'd warmed them slightly would they dare put them on. And for some families, blankets alone weren't enough. They'd heat up house bricks in the oven while dinner was cooking, then wrap the bricks in old towels and tuck them down by their feet at bedtime. A homemade hot water bottle that stayed warm for hours. Today, most of us snuggle under a light duvet in a centrally heated room and call it cold if it dips below 18 degrees. For people who grew up in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, sleeping in a room so frigid you could see your breath wasn't extreme, it was just normal winter. Number 2, wearing your coat indoors all day long. In most houses, there was only one reliable source of heat, the living room fire. Everywhere else was quite frankly freezing. That meant your winter coat wasn't something you hung up neatly and forgot about until you went out again. It was something you kept on. In the kitchen, in the hallway, even at the breakfast table. Children would come home from school, drop their satchel, hang up their scarf, and keep their coat firmly buttoned. Homework was done in coats and jumpers, and sometimes fingerless gloves, so you could still hold a pencil. Breakfast might be eaten with a scarf still round your neck. For many families, the daily outfit looked something like this: vest, shirt, jumper, cardigan, and then a coat on top, inside the house. Grandparents would be bundled up as if they were about to brave a snowstorm, even though they were just sitting in their own armchair. It wasn't unusual to see older relatives wearing hats indoors too. Anything to keep the cold at bay. Today, the idea of zipping up your winter coat to sit down for tea would feel bizarre. But in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, it was just sensible. You didn't turn the heating up. There often wasn't any heating to turn up. You simply added another layer and got on with it. Number 3, huddling as a family around the coal fire. The living room, often still called the front room or sitting room, was the only truly warm room in the house. At the heart of it was the coal fire, or in some homes a coke or open fire that became the centre of family life through the darkest months. The fire wasn't lit for ambience. It wasn't some cosy optional extra. It was essential. It might be kindled in the morning and carefully kept going all day, topped up and tended like a member of the family. Let it go out, and the house quickly became almost uninhabitable. Evenings formed a kind of human solar system around that fireplace. There was an unspoken hierarchy of warmth. Dad, or the main wage earner, usually had the seat closest to the heat. Mum just behind. Children on the floor, or squeezed together on the rug, constantly shuffling and inching nearer whenever they could. You'd sit with one side of your body almost roasting, your shins glowing red from the fire, while your back and shoulders still felt the chill of the rest of the room. People joke now that you had to rotate like a chicken on a spit, turning every so often to warm the other side. That wasn't far from the truth. Homework was done by the fire. Tea, or dinner, depending on where you were, might be eaten on your lap in that same room, just to stay warm. The television, once it arrived, lived in there as well. So the evening's entertainment and the evening's warmth were all bound together. Going to bed meant leaving the only warm space in the house and walking up the cold stairs into a bedroom that felt like a refrigerator. That moment, leaving the glow of the fire behind, was such a shock to the system that many children would stretch out their evenings downstairs for as long as they could get away with. Number 4. Fighting draughts with newspaper, tape and heavy curtains. If the coal fire was your main source of heat, then drafts were the enemy. Cold air found its way into houses through every possible gap, under doors, around flimsy window frames, through keyholes and letterboxes. Even with the fire blazing, you could feel cold air creeping in around your ankles. So every evening, often as routinely as locking the front door, families would go into battle against the drafts. Newspapers were rolled up and stuffed along the bottom of doors, forming makeshift draft excluders. If a window whistled when the wind blew, you didn't shrug and ignore it. You might tape newspaper over the frame, or even seal it shut for the whole winter with brown paper tape. Some households didn't open certain windows again until spring. Curtains weren't delicate bits of fabric chosen to match the cushions. They were heavy, lined barriers, often thick as blankets themselves. As soon as it got dark, they'd be drawn tight, trapping what little warmth there was. People would push the edges against the walls to make sure no cold air crept in around the sides. Keyholes had little covers that could be flipped down. Letterboxes might have brush strips added to stop icy gusts from rattling through the hallway. Every gap was treated like a leak in a boat, something that could slowly drain precious heat from the room if you didn't block it. Today, with double glazing and insulated doors, many of those rituals have vanished. But you'll still find older generations instinctively checking for drafts, pulling curtains fully closed, and complaining about that cold coming under the door. Old habits, learned in bitter winters, are hard to shake. Number 5. Hot bricks in bed, a clever, homemade heating hack. Hot water bottles certainly existed, and many families used them. But rubber perishes, bottles split, and they cool down fairly quickly. So if you wanted warmth that lasted well into the night, you turned to something a bit more solid. House bricks. Ordinary, rough, red bricks. While the evening meal was cooking, families would pop a few clean bricks into the oven. By the time bedtime rolled around, those bricks were scorching hot. They'd be carefully wrapped in old towels or bits of blanket and carried upstairs, usually by whoever had the strongest hands. Each child might get one hot brick at the foot of their bed, a solid, slow-cooling source of heat. You'd slide your icy feet down, find that warm lump under the covers, and hold onto it with your toes like a lifeline. For the first hour or two, it felt luxurious, like having your own private little heater under the blankets. Some families kept special bricks just for this purpose, stored clean and dry, used only in winter. Others simply used whatever bricks were spare from DIY projects. It didn't look glamorous, but it worked. Best of all, the oven had been on anyway to cook dinner, so this felt like free heat, squeezed out of every last bit of energy you'd already paid for. Today we plug in electric blankets, or simply turn the thermostat up a notch. In the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, a warmed brick wrapped in a towel could mean the difference between a miserable night's sleep and a bearable one. Number 6. Boiling kettles for every wash, every bath, every sink of dishes. If you want hot water now, you turn a tap. It's so ordinary, we barely register it. But in many homes in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, there was no such thing as instant hot water on demand. If you wanted hot water, you boiled it on the gas stove or with electric kettles again and again and again. Morning washes meant multiple kettles, one for your face and hands, another for dad to shave, more for mum to wash her hair or scrub the children clean. The water would be poured into a bowl in the sink or a tin bath, topped up with cold so it didn't scald. Bath time was a serious operation. Filling a bath could take half an hour of hard graft, boiling kettle after kettle and lugging them carefully upstairs. It was so much work that many families only had a proper bath once a week, usually on Sunday night, ready for school and work on Monday. The rest of the week you had a good wash at the sink. And of course, the hot water wasn't just for people. Doing the dishes meant boiling fresh water every time, pouring it into a bowl and washing up as quickly as possible before it cooled. Modern hot water systems, cylinders, combi boilers, mixers have quietly removed an enormous amount of labour from winter life. For families in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, the effort involved in simply getting a basin of hot water on a freezing evening was one more reminder that winter wasn't just something you endured outdoors. It followed you right into your own kitchen. Number 7. Thermal underwear and endless layers. Put another jumper on. In the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, thermal underwear wasn't a specialist product in an outdoor catalogue, it was just underwear. Everyone wore vests, proper, old-fashioned vests. Men, women, children. Over that came shirts and blouses, then jumpers, then cardigans. In really cold spells, a coat on top, all indoors. Children trudged to school in winter, looking like little Michelin men. Vest, school shirt, thick jumper, perhaps a second cardigan, and then a heavy coat. Some mums even sneaked extra layers beneath school uniforms, another vest, thick tights under socks, an extra jumper under a blazer, anything to keep the cold from sinking in. At night, the layers didn't stop. Thick flannel pajamas, bed socks, sometimes even a woolly hat if the bedroom was especially icy. People might laugh today at the idea of sleeping in a hat, but if you've ever slept in a room that feels like a walk-in freezer, you quickly realise how much heat you lose through your head. The phrase, "put another jumper on," was standard parenting. You didn't complain that the house was cold and expect the heating to be turned up. You simply accepted the temperature and added another layer. Modern homes, with radiators quietly ticking away in every room, have given us the luxury of thinking of jumpers as fashion. For earlier generations, those layers were nothing less than survival kit. Number 8. Hot stews, soups and tea. Heating yourself from the inside. In a cold house, food wasn't just about calories. It was another way of keeping warm. Winter meals in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds were often heavy, hot and designed to stick to your ribs. Big bubbling stews, slow-cooked casseroles, thick soups packed with whatever veg you could get your hands on, all simmering for hours, filling the kitchen with steam and the kind of damp warmth you could almost lean against. Breakfast might very well be a steaming bowl of porridge, eaten standing near the cooker so you could soak up the heat from the hob at the same time. It was cheap, filling, and warmed you right through before you stepped out into the icy air. Evening meals were served piping hot, and you'd eat them fairly quickly while they were still giving off heat. Part of the comfort came not just from the flavour, but from that feeling of warmth spreading out from your stomach to the rest of your body. And of course, there was the eternal British answer to almost any problem: a nice hot cuppa. Tea was practically a second heating system. Kettle on, mugs lined up, steam clouding the cold air. Cups of tea were made constantly, for visitors, for neighbours, for anyone who looked as if they might be flagging a bit in the cold. Cocoa or hot milk at bedtime, soup for lunch, stews for dinner, tea in between, all of it added up. Each hot drink, each hot meal, was another small act of resistance against the cold seeping into your bones. We still enjoy comfort food in winter now, but for families in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, hot food was a heating strategy every bit as important as blankets or fires. Number 10. Paraffin heaters. Smelly, risky but warm. Not every home could rely entirely on a coal fire. Some families bought portable paraffin heaters to supplement their main source of warmth. These little units burned paraffin oil and gave off a surprisingly strong heat, as well as a very distinctive smell. You'd fill the heater's tank with paraffin, carefully light the wick, and then spend a few minutes adjusting it to get the flame just right. Too low, and it wouldn't throw enough heat. Too high, and it would smoke and stink out the whole room. Getting that balance right was a skill in itself. Paraffin heaters could be moved from room to room. A quick blast in a freezing bedroom before bed, or in the bathroom before someone braved a bath in a cold house. For all their drawbacks, they were a lifeline for many families. But they came with risks. The fumes weren't exactly healthy. They used up oxygen in the room. There was always the danger of one being knocked over, or of carbon monoxide building up if ventilation was poor. Looking back now, people shudder at the thought of them sitting next to curtains or near children's toys. Yet when you're cold enough, you make compromises. For many households in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, that familiar paraffin smell is forever linked with the memory of finally feeling warm on a bitter night. Number 11. Covering windows and waking to ice on the inside. Single glazed windows were one of the biggest culprits for heat loss. In winter, they leaked warmth at an astonishing rate. So families did what they could to insulate them by hand. Heavy curtains were the first defense. Many were lined, sometimes with old sheets or extra fabric, to make them thicker. In really cold houses, people would hang old blankets or even worn-out coats over the windows as well, creating multiple layers of makeshift insulation. Some families taped plastic sheeting across the panes, inventing their own version of secondary glazing. At night, every curtain would be drawn, every edge pressed tight against the wall to stop drafts sneaking in around the sides. Even with all that effort, mornings could still be shocking. You'd wake up to condensation running down the glass, or worse, to beautiful but chilling ice patterns on the inside of your windows. Branching ferns and starbursts that were lovely to look at, but a clear sign just how cold your bedroom had been all night. Sometimes the windows would actually be frozen shut. Today, double and triple glazing keep our homes warm and quiet, with barely a thought. But for families in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, windows were a constant winter battleground. Fragile barriers between the warmth they worked so hard to keep in and the bitter air pressing in from outside. Number 12. Shutting off whole rooms for the winter. When heat is precious, you don't waste it. So one of the most common strategies was simple. Stop trying to heat the whole house. Through the coldest months, many families would effectively shut down parts of their home. Spare bedrooms, formal dining rooms, little used parlours. Their doors were closed and often stayed that way for weeks. No fire, no heater, no attempt to warm them at all. Those rooms would become incredibly cold. The air felt damp and still. Condensation might linger on the walls. Going into them, perhaps to fetch something from a wardrobe or a cupboard, was like stepping into a walk-in fridge. You'd nip in, grab what you needed, and hurry back to the living room or kitchen, where the fire or stove was still battling against the cold. In some houses, only the living room and one bedroom were properly used and warmed in winter. Everything else was reserved for warmer months. Come spring, families would open the house up again, opening doors and windows, letting fresh air blow through rooms that had felt almost abandoned, and dealing with any damp that had crept in. Central heating has changed all of this. Now, warmth is distributed evenly, and we think little of wandering from room to room without a second thought. But in the 60 seconds and 70 seconds, deciding which rooms deserved heat was part of the serious business of getting through another winter. So there you have it. 12 things Brits did just to survive winter in the 1,960 seconds and 70 seconds. Ice on the inside of the windows. Sleeping under mountains of blankets. Wearing coats at the breakfast table. Boiling kettle after kettle for a single bath. Going to bed early, not because you were tired, but because it was the only warm place left in the house. Today, we flick a switch, turn a dial, and complain that the room feels a bit chilly at 18 degrees. Our parents and grandparents faced winters where it could be 5 degrees inside, with frost forming on the glass and drafts sneaking under every door. And somehow, they just got on with it. If this brought back memories for you, or opened your eyes to what earlier generations endured, we'd love to hear your stories. Did your family do any of these things? Do you remember hot bricks in the bed, paraffin heaters, or ice on the inside of the windows? Share your memories in the comments, and if you enjoyed this journey back in time, please subscribe for more warm, nostalgic stories about how we really lived.